Good evening, everyone. We welcome you all to Ortho TV Online Financial Friday series. Today, we have a chartered wealth manager with us, who's the co-founder and chief financial coach. We welcome you all to Ortho TV Online Financial Friday series.
It's 9 o'clock.
Yes, sorry for the echo. So today we have Khyati Mashru Vasani, who's a chartered wealth manager. She is also the co-founder and chief financial coach of Vama Plantrich LLP. She is going to talk on demarcate your portfolio with a befitting asset allocation. So over to Ms. Khyati.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Ortho TV, for this wonderful opportunity that I'm able to connect with all of you through this medium. As Doctor introduced, my name is Khyati Mashru Vasani. I am a co-founder and a chief financial coach with Vama Plantrich LLP. I am a chartered wealth manager by qualification and a financial coach by choice. Well, I believe that every family's and every individual's money story is unique and it can be rewritten. So all that we do at Vama Plantrich is fortify your wealth pulse. I'll move forward. We have a lot of things to discuss in next 45 minutes to an hour. So before I move on to asset allocation, I'm going to talk on some part of it. I'm going to talk on the basics. I'm going to talk on things that will help you fortify your wealth pulse, and then how important role an asset allocation plays in fortifying your wealth pulse is what we will also be speaking on. So yeah, we'll try and make it as informative, and I'll try and explain it to you in a fun way, because I'm sure all of you have heard that numbers are the very boring thing. Finance is the most boring thing, but trust me, it's not that. If you understand it in a right way, and if you understand it in terms of concept, it's a beautiful thing. So I'll try and make it as easy as possible for all of you. Well, and we'll be more than happy to take up the questions post this webinar. Why are we here? In fact, I like this concept of a financial Friday, because personal finance is one thing which is absolutely ignored in schools, even in medical colleges. That is one thing that we are not really taught. So basics of creating, maximizing, sustaining wealth was not taught to us in schools and colleges both. And that is precisely the reason why we are here, so that we can learn the basics of that, and it can help us in our lives ahead. Why is financial fitness important? Because if you're financially fit, as we all are living in the times of COVID, the only thing that we're hearing is immunity strong hai, so we'll be able to sustain COVID. It's something similar. If there is a financial fitness, it will help you swim through black swan events like this without much worries. And that is the reason financial fitness is more important. Another reason why it's important, hum sabne suna hai, money is nothing, it's not really required, but wealth is an ability to fully experience life. And that is the reason financial fitness is important. Well, we begin. Where do you see yourself? So I'm going to spend 2 minutes on this slide. I want to question you. What are you up to? Are you carrying buckets, or are you building a pipeline with whatever you are doing? With doctors, I understand that it's your job that you do is completely irreplaceable. It has to be done by you only. So it's like you need to think, is your profession, with all due respect, it's a very, very noble profession. And we are all blessed to have wonderful doctors like you around us. But the profession that you're in, is it carrying buckets or is it building a pipeline? For some reasons, if you stop working tomorrow, what happens? The income that you're having, is it going to continue or does it stop? Or have you thought about building a pipeline that tomorrow, if you stop working out of choice or for whatever reason, passive source of income is created for you and it will keep on coming to you irrespective of any kind of situation, markets, interest rate, XYZ things. So it is very important that if you're on the left-hand side of the quadrant carrying buckets, it is important that you move on to building a pipeline. It's very, very important. And another question that I have for you is your money working as hard as you? You are working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, putting so much time into your practice. But is your money working as hard as you? That's a question mark. That's a thought that I leave you to ponder. Now, there are certain ways, if you don't change those habits, you will continue to carry buckets. First, if you're keeping all your money in saving bank account. Second, keeping maximum money in FD, because nothing beats locking away your own money to underperform inflation. Why am I saying this? FD's rate of return today, 6.5, 7%. Inflation today, आज अभी inflation numbers में कम है, but on an average 5 to 6% is a year-on-year inflation. When I include lifestyle, when I include education inflation, when I include all of it. So the return that you're getting on your FD is not even keeping pace with inflation. Post taxes. So does it really make sense to lock your money and put everything into FD? Again, a thought for you to think on. Buying money back and endowment insurance plans. If you're doing that, you'll continue to carry buckets. Don't learn about asset allocation because you know alliterations. Buying more, 50% sale. It can't get better than this. But we don't really think about 50% to at least we're paying from our own pocket. Only thing that you need to change your habit is whatever I'm buying, do I really need it? And if I need it, I buy it, irrespective of price, irrespective of the discount. And if I don't need it, I don't buy it, even if it's on discount. Buying equipments on EMI. So there are a lot of doctor clients that we work with because we specialize in planning for doctors. And just giving you an example, with all due respect, but I'm giving examples so that we all get to learn out of it. There are a lot of doctors that I have met. There is money lying in saving bank account, in current account, but at the same time, the large equipment that they're buying are bought on EMIs because they have better schemes. But at the same time, it's very unhealthy to do that. Invest maximum amount of money in real estate. Real estate is very, very illiquid. Plus, India as a country right now, we are at a stage where we are moving from physicalization of assets to financialization of assets. India as a country believed in gold, believed in real estate, but now that is changing. So it is important that you don't invest maximum of your money in real estate. If you're thinking that delay is costing you nothing, opportunity, age, time is going to wait forever at your doorstep. So again, if we keep doing these things, then one is for sure to keep carrying buckets. So financial habits, because it's like small little actions that you take time and again will go a long way in helping you build a stronger roots, stronger financial roots. But if we don't change small little habits, then for sure we'll continue to carry buckets. And that is the reason it's important that we change these things. As doctors, there are 4 cornerstone areas of your financial life, and you need to understand this in detail. First is about understanding, having an absolute clarity and understanding the structure, scalability, and profitability of your practice. And this lockdown period, I know as doctors, you all have gone back to work to, and whatever, it's your duty, and most of the doctors have gone back to work. But whatever little time that you're left with, it is important that you start focusing on these things and start putting those things on a piece of paper for better clarity, for a better financial future. One is to understand the overall structure of your practice, how scalable is your practice, and how profitable is your practice. Second thing, managing the risk and uncertainty of the profession and life both. Because if these both are not well managed, it can be a potential threat to your assets and your income both. So you have to learn about managing these risks. Another important thing, where are you now financially? Where do you want to be? And how do you get there? And more importantly, getting there on time. It's like आपने देखा होगा कि every large corporate house, small size business house, they all have their business plans in place for today, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. What's the vision that they have? The entire team that's working with them, what's the vision that they have? The team is aligned with the vision. So my question to you today is, as a professional, do you have your business plan in place? And when you have that financial clarity, it's like business plan of your life. So it's important that you have that on piece of paper. working on totality of your financial life cycle. So it's like financial life cycle contains three things. First, you need to work on your earnings. Second, working on savings that you are making, from the earning, whatever you are saving. So second is working on that. Third, working on earnings generated by converting those savings into investments. So three things. So when you are working on all the three things together, it is working on earnings generated. When all these three things you work together, it is called working on totality of your financial life cycle. So these are four cornerstone areas of your life. And it is important that as a professional, as a doctor, you need to have absolute clarity on these four areas of your life. That will help you build a base for your financial success. Okay, now we spoke about building a pipeline. Sounds like a good idea. But first, let's understand what are the leakages. So before I go on to building a pipeline, you first need to understand that what are the possible leakages in the pipeline. First, we need to fix those leakages, and then we need to move forward on building a pipeline. First and foremost, you need to understand what is the protection quotient. So I will talk more on protection quotient, but protection quotient, we need to think on it because it is very important. When the protection quotient is strong, your family will sustain any kind of eventuality. So when we go ahead, you will see how sustainable is your financial pyramid. Second, debt quotient. We think assets hai, properties hai, 10 crore ka, 15 crore ka. But what is a liability? What is a loan in front of that? If you have assets worth 15 crores, but loan worth 11 crores, loans, liabilities, all put together, then your debt quotient is, it's very, very high. You have very high debt as compared to your assets. That's not a very healthy sign. This can cause a possible leakage to your financial pipeline because you'll have a lot of money going towards your EMI for many years, because of which you will lose an opportunity to invest and thereby lose different things that it offers, which I will cover as we move forward. Another important thing is saving quotient. It's not about how much money you are making. It's about how much money are you saving. So if there is someone who's earning 5 lakhs and just saving 50,000, it's only 10% saving. Maybe because of higher lifestyle or higher EMIs. And if there is someone who's earning 3 lakhs, but at the same time managing to save 1,50,000, the savings quotient is 50%, which is very, very healthy. Then another important thing is the dependency quotient. How many people are actually dependent on your income? That will also help you understand, can it cause a possible leakage? If your dependency is completely on your income, then again, you need to plan it that way. If there are 2 people working and dependency is not completely on your income, if there are enough assets which are generating income for you, then again, dependency is not on your income. So you need to understand that what are the possible leakages of your pipeline. We spoke about protection quotient. So I'll just come to that protection quotient now. This is your financial pyramid. And whenever you're building your financial pyramid, it is important that we follow these steps. You cannot directly go to the 3rd step and 5th step and then come back to 1st. The reason why we are calling this a financial pyramid is because the base of the pyramid is very strong. We all know that pyramid lasts for many years just because the base of the pyramid is very strong. Similarly, when I talk about protection is nothing but a base of your pyramid. Now let's see what all comes in protection. First thing is term insurance. Having enough life insurance is very important. Some people that we meet tell me, I don't believe in life insurance. Life insurance is not a religion. We don't need to believe in it. Life insurance is just passing the risk of your family, the financial risk that your family carries, to an insurance company. That's it. So it is important that you have a term insurance and having adequate amount of term insurance. Just having 50 lakh to 80 lakh of a coverage, which is not going to take care of your family's lifestyle, which is not going to take care of your family's overall sustenance, it's not really going to make sense. So buy it adequately as per your human life value. Second important thing, having enough medical insurance. Medical insurance is your asset. Never treat it as an expense. And as doctors, I don't really need to explain that at all. But medical insurance is something which is very important. And we need to remember that medical insurance is not something you're going to use today. You're going to use it 20, 30 years later. So whenever you're buying a medical insurance, buy it for an amount, presuming you're going to use it few years later. Having enough critical illness insurance, ensuring that you write a will. It's very, very important. Unfortunately, the Hindu succession law, when you read it, it's really difficult to understand the law. Will is a very simple piece of document. You can even Google any kind of will template, you can pull it out and you can write your own will. It can just be on a simple piece of paper. And again, one more thing I would caution, nomination is not equivalent to, it's not equivalent to a will, because just nomination doesn't really help. You need to have a will. It can, if you have a will, nomination can actually supersede. I mean, will can actually supersede the nomination. Nomination only means that you're a trustee. The person who's been nominated is a trustee. So it is very important that you have a will. Having enough disability insurance, having enough emergency fund for at least 6 months of your expenses, and having a plan for debt reduction, which means whatever loans you have, slowly, you need to go on repaying and reducing those loans. When you're doing all these things, you're forming the base of your pyramid very strong. Then you move on to regular savings. So regular savings is where you're planning for your non-negotiable expense. Child's education, retirement, and owning your own home. Child's education is certain. Timing is certain. Irrespective market, irrespective COVID, irrespective any situation. Retirement is certain. Timing is uncertain. Same with home ownership planning. You need to have your home. So planning your non-negotiable goals through regular savings. Okay, where you don't look for a very high returns, but you're looking for more of a guarantees, less of a risk. So less risk, less return, but something which can take care of your goals. Then moving on to growth and diversification. Once these two things are sure, like partly non-negotiable goals are planned for, protection quotient is on place, then you can move on to growth and diversification, which takes care of child's education, retirement, growth and diversification, bonds, stocks, mutual funds, ETF. You can afford to take more risk. Then going on to speculation, where you can afford to lose a little money, high risk, high return, but at the same time, you're not worried because base of the pyramid is strong, because you're already planned on a few very important life goals. And then you talk about wealth distribution, where you are discussing and thinking about passing the wealth that you have accumulated to another generation. So that's how this entire financial pyramid model works. And when you're doing your finances, it's important that you move in stages like this to ensure that financially you are absolutely fit and you're moving step by step. Okay, now let's understand the secret of building a pipeline. This is very interesting. There are very few things. So I'm not really going to talk about a particular product or anything like that. But these are secrets. These are concepts. Once you understand these concepts, for sure you'll be able to build your pipeline. Let's understand who is your wealth demon. Okay. So wealth demon is nothing but inflation. It's just like shark. It's an invisible killer. We cannot really imagine how it erodes your purchasing power, how it erodes your wealth. I'm going to show some numbers to you. Okay. Here, if you see purchasing power of rupees 1 crore, 10 years, it will be 50 lakhs, 20 years, 25 lakhs, and 30 years, 12.5 lakhs. 30 years down the line, if you have 1 crore, the purchase value of that will reduce to 12.5 lakhs. Living expense for 1 lakh per month. If today you need 1 lakh per month as your expense, household expense, if you're retiring 20 years later, you will need 4 lakhs per month. So your passive income, your pipeline has to be built in a way that it gives you 4 lakhs per month. Same thing, retirement corpus. If you need an expense of 1 lakh per month, and if you're retiring 10 years later, you will need 3.83 crores. That's a corpus that you need to build in 10 years. 20 years, 7.65 crores, and 30 years, 15.31 crores. So we have made few assumptions for this. Inflation rate, rate of return, presuming you're retiring at 55, and presuming you're living till 85. So with these assumptions, this is what you need to build. Now, this is how inflation erodes your purchasing power. Let's understand who's your wealth terminator. That's nothing but our own habit of procrastination. Two scenarios we'll talk about. One, Ajay, age 30, and Sanjay, age 30. Ajay starts his investment at 30 years and he just invests 20,000 rupees a month and he retires at age 60. Let's assume he is getting 12% return because he's done his asset allocation well. Fund value at retirement age of 60 is going to be 7 crores. And same thing if you see for Sanjay. Sanjay feels 30 is too early for me to start my investments. It's time. I want to build my house. I want to go on holidays. I want to have kids. I want to give the best to my kids. So I don't want to spend money on all these things. But I will start investing later. So he starts investing at 45. Monthly investment 20,000. Retirement age is 60. Same rate of return. He retires with 1 crore. A delay of 15 years costed him 6 crores. Let's look at another scenario. Somebody tells Sanjay that this is not right when you're not only going to make 1 crore. So Sanjay says, I'll double my investments. Instead of doing 20,000, I'll do 40,000 per month. At retirement age of 60 and return rate of 12%, he retires with still, in spite of doubling his investment, he retires with 2 crores. So double the investment, but still he faced a loss of, opportunity loss. I will not say loss, opportunity loss of 5 crores just because of procrastination. So we always think we'll wait for things to get better. Ek loan khatam ho jayega, uske baad kar lenge. Let's have this trip and then we'll do it. But that's not a right way. Procrastination can hurt your wealth big time. Your wealth genie. That's nothing but compounding. I'm sure this is very easy. We all can calculate 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10. But same thing, if I ask you in this way, it's difficult, right? Question mark, because then we'll not be able to understand. This is how the magic of compounding works. Albert Einstein's eighth wonder of world. He said the one who understands it enjoys it. The one who doesn't pays for it in a long run. So compounding is a magic. If you have the power to wait, and if you understand this, by default, your wealth will get compounded. Okay, so it's like 10% compound interest for 25 years is not 250%, but it's 985%. 100 rupees invested grows to 985. This is how compounding works. Let's understand what's your wealth wildcard. Wealth wildcard is nothing but equity. And it's on purpose that I have written it this way. It's equity. We all call shares. The name itself suggests share. You are sharing a part of the company. You're owning a part of the company. Equity. So everyone owns equal in the proportion of whatever you hold. So simple difference we've shown between James Quincy and Warren Buffett. James Quincy earns 1 million per year as a salary. Warren Buffett earns 1.5 million per day from the stock dividends. So in the first scenario, money, you are working for money. In the second scenario, money is working for you. Same thing, when I said about building a pipeline, I meant where you're making your money working for you and you are not working for money. This is the power of equity. Right now, we all feel the brunt. Equity to acha perform nahi kar raha hai. I'm sure all of you must be seeing the figures every day. But at the same time, of course, there are going to be times like this. Volatility is a very nature of equity. Okay, that's not really going to change. But real return, your investments will earn. It's like inflation is at whatever the inflation is at. FD will give you a certain percentage above inflation. Gold will give you a certain percentage above inflation. Real estate and equity. Equity is the only one thing which can give you a good amount of real rate of return. I mean, post-inflation, what returns the instrument is giving you, that is very important. Next time when you make your investments, see what is the return that you're generating post inflation, because that's a real return, and that is something which is going to count on the way forward. You don't really need to worry because market has witnessed more events than you. Here we've just put a graph as to how markets have moved and what are the different situations that market has gone through. Now, of course, I have to add a 2020 chart, COVID-19, and then how it grew. But yeah, so market has seen more events than you in last 40 years. If you see a global index, NASDAQ and other markets, if you see, Great Depression, World War II, everything it has gone through. But I specifically put for Indian markets. So you don't really need to worry. It is going to be volatile, and it is because of volatility that it pays you the great returns. Had everything been linear and guaranteed, it wouldn't have been called stock markets. People ask me what kind of stocks should I buy. I don't really know what stocks to buy. Simple illustration, it's a drawing room. You can just have a look at your drawing room and all the things that you use, and if you feel that you want to own that company, you can just simply go on buying that stocks. Buy it and keep it for a longer term. Okay, if you're not an investor, if you're not a trader, so don't think about buying and selling every day. Buy it with a long-term horizon. Buy a good quality company, and of course, thanks to Google, you have everything available on internet now. You can identify and you can learn more about that organization. But go for simple products, simple stocks, the products of which you are also very comfortable using. Like in this particular picture, we have shown Maruti, M&M, Tata Motors, Exide, Amara Raja Batteries, okay, Titan, PC Jewel, Shoppers Stop, Trent, V-Mart, Future Retail, that's your retailers market. Shoes, so Bata, Relaxo, Liberty, Pidilite, Camlin. So everything that you use day to day, if you even list down those things, you'll get the names of all your quality stocks. Same thing, you move forward, look into your kitchen, Britannia, ITC, Nestle, Borosil, Hawkins, TTK Prestige. Same thing, look at your washroom, HUL, Godrej Consumers, Gillette, HUL, Dabur, Colgate. So many things. So all you need to do is identify a few good stocks, identify a few good businesses, and go on accumulating and stay with them through thick and thin. And when there is a good time in the market, when the company is at good time, for sure you'll be making good money, subject to you buying good quality stocks. But again, you shouldn't be putting all your eggs in one basket. And very, very important thing that helps you build your wealth is asset allocation. So allocation into stock, bond, real estate, cash, and gold. These are the 5 major asset classes, and you need to have your money spread across all the asset classes to make money, because every asset has cycle. And we will now go through it. I'll take you through different asset classes. Okay. Asset allocation is simply a strategy to apportion your money in a way that you can balance the risk and return. Why asset allocation? So that you can balance the risk and return proportion. It's a very dynamic, unique process to every person. For every person, asset allocation is different. It can never be same for everyone. It has to be decided as per your age, as per your goal, as per your horizon. The goal horizon for how many years you'd invested, and your risk appetite. So all of it put together can decide your asset allocation. Younger you are, the more ability to take risk, because you have time. You have time to achieve your goal. You also have time to work and make that money, even if you lose money. So your risk appetite is generally higher. Your asset allocation is aggressive when you are at a younger age, right? As you grow older and approach your goals, the most important thing is to safeguard your capital. So you have to move higher to debt, and then you have to lower your equity proportion. That's how entire asset allocation as a concept works. And asset allocation, if you've done it in the right way, it can save you in this VUCA times. We all living in this VUCA world. Abhi tak we just heard, but today we are living in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, confusing, and ambiguous world. So when you have your asset allocation in place, it can actually save you from these VUCA times. So what are the factors determinant for asset allocation? First, you need to define your investment objective. As I said, you need to know where are you now, where you want to be. It's very clear. I mean, you need to have that clarity. Without knowing that, you cannot really determine your asset allocation. Second thing, try to figure out your goal duration. Whenever you're picking up an asset, equity, gold, real estate, debt, whatever it is, understand for how long am I going to stay invested. Understand the level of risk tolerance. When you have a high risk, when market will dip to 7,000 levels, will you be able to sit quietly? Very, very important. Consider the pros and cons of every asset and sub-asset class, which is available before going ahead with that asset class. So I'll share that a little in detail with you. Various investment avenues and its implications. First, let's understand equity market. But equity market is the most important, equity is the most important part of your asset allocation. You cannot think of not having it in your portfolio. It is important, and it has to be in a considerable portion for you to make good returns. What are the pros of investing? Pros is you enjoy ownership in the company. When you're buying an equity, you're an owner of that percentage into the company. You will be sharing profits through dividends, returns in the form of capital appreciation, ability to generate returns that are higher than inflation, limited liability. You don't have much liability when you're owning it. Good tax benefit, short-term, long-term capital gain, because long-term is charged at 10%, up to 1 lakh, it's tax-free, and it's a well-regulated legal structure. Plus, it's highly liquid. Cons, volatility is very high, does not guarantee any return. You need skills to identify a good stock. You need regular monitoring, and equity market is one such market that every single news will impact it. So you need to know how to maintain your calm and how to maintain your portfolio in times like that. Who can invest in equity? Investors with certain level of risk-taking ability, the ones who are eyeing for higher returns, ones who have a little longer term horizon and ready to invest at lows and highs in the market. So when it's low, you invest money. When it's high, you invest your patience in the market, because you have to stay put at that time. When it's low, you have to, of course, buy, and at the same time, you have to be very patient. If it goes low, whatever it's existing, obviously the values are going to go down. And when it's high, you again have to control your emotion that I don't like not selling it in hurry. Fear of missing out. जब भी rate नीचे जाता है, तभी भी we fear of missing out that, oh, if I don't buy it at this rate, I will lose on the opportunity. Or when it goes higher, again a FOMO, fear of missing out. That, if I need to book at this rate, otherwise I will miss out on this. So those kind of behavioral bias is not very healthy when you're investing in equity market. So that is something that you need to be wary of. What are the ways to invest in equity? One is, of course, direct equity investments. You can just buy stocks through your DMAT, which we all know. Another route is mutual funds and PMS. So that's an indirect way of equity investments. If we don't understand much and if you don't want to track it, mutual funds are the best way. You don't need to worry about it. It gives you better diversification. It gives you a decent return, and you don't need to worry about tracking and monitoring your portfolio. Pick up a category that you want to invest in and just stay invested there. Well, now coming to debt market. So one is equity. Another important part of your asset allocation has to be debt market. A lot of times people tell me कि सब पैसा equity में डालते हैं, debt का क्या जरूरत है? But no, debt also plays a very important role in your portfolio, because equity and debt both have inverse relationship. Sometimes it's very different market like we're in today, where equities also don't perform, debt also consistently keeps going down. But over a long run, they both have inverse relationship, and debt gives more stability to the portfolio. So it has to be there in the portfolio. In simple term, debt means loan. It's the money a lender lends to a borrower. In other words, we can say that debt is an obligation or commitment from the borrower to repay the money borrowed from the lender. So debt is loan, like you are giving a loan to the company wherever you are investing. Pros, the good things about debt, capital preservation, regular flow of income in form of interest, capital appreciation. You get, I mean, if you're not taking interest, your capital is also appreciated. Portfolio risk is reduced. And of course, whenever you're investing in debt, that gets invested in long-term infrastructure, long-term government-related projects also. So that helps in economic growth. Cons, low inflation adjusted return, the real rate of return is low. It has a credit risk and the interest rate risk both. So sometimes people tell me that debt mein koi risk nahi hai. It's not that, it's a myth. Market has volatility risk, debt has interest rate and credit rate risk. So these both are the risks that is there in the debt instrument also. For who is debt right? One who are very conservative investors, even aggressive investors would have, but they will have little portion in debt. Conservative investors would have higher portion. Investors who are looking for regular flow of income, and investors whose goal is also approaching. So as I said, when your goal is approaching, it is important that you move from equity to debt. So slowly and gradually, you need to keep moving to debt. What are the ways to invest in debt market? Bank FD, again, fixed deposit up to 5 lakh are covered by the Reserve Bank of India. And other than that, FDs are also not guaranteed. We all feel FDs are guaranteed, but that's not guaranteed. Corporate deposits are another way to look at it. Corporate bond and debentures, government securities like RBI bonds, etc. Small savings scheme offered by government and post office, PPF, EPF accounts, debt mutual funds. In debt mutual fund, you have loads of category: overnight funds, liquid funds, short-term funds, corporate bond funds, banking PSU debt funds, dynamic bond fund, gilt fund, and credit risk fund. So you have all of it into debt mutual funds, but it's important for you to pick and choose a right one according to your goal and according to your investment horizon. So these are the avenues to park in debt markets. Let's look at gold and how to put gold to use. So gold is also a very important part of the portfolio, and it has to be there, close to 5 to 10% depending on your risk appetite. Why gold? Because it's a precious metal and it acts as a vehicle to a monetary exchange. Globally, gold is widely used as a vehicle to monetary exchange, and money flowing into global monetary system is in some or the other way attached to gold. So again, all the currency balances that we see, the currency movements that we see of different countries, gold has a very important role to play in that. And that also, the amount of gold that a country uses as a reserve also determines its currency prices, etc. So it's a very important asset and you need to have in your portfolio. How to put gold to use? Store of value. It's like long lasting metal. It can last for ages. It has been used for exchange and has lasted as monies for centuries together. Reserve currency, as I said, various nations aim to maintain gold reserves in order to secure their position. So guarantee to cash in their promises and pay their depositors and note holders. So a lot of central banks also use it as a instruments. Why again gold? Because it acts as a hedge against the economic pressure. We all saw last few days how gold prices went up. So whenever there is a lot of uncertainty around us, in a situation where there's a war, in a situation where crude oil prices are absolutely volatile, that's the time when gold comes to use. So it's a hedge against all the economic pressures. Of course, jewelry and ornaments, India is known for it. It's a part of an investment. It gives you portfolio diversification, and you can also use it for pledging for all your emergency needs. So this is how gold, plays an important role in the portfolio. How can one invest in gold? Physical form, of course, jewelry, coin, bars. But we would not really suggest that way. There's a very conventional, traditional ways of saving it. And if you buy it in a physical way, it has a lot of disadvantages: high storage cost, quality issue, purchase at a premium price. If you're buying jewelry, is complete to no. You shouldn't be buying in a jewelry form because you'll be giving your making. When you give that gold away, you don't get anything back. You'll only get a price of gold. The purity is compromised when you talk about jewelry. So it's ideal to, if it's physical, coin or bar is something which you can go for. But unconventional way: gold fund, gold exchange traded fund, and sovereign gold bonds. These are the best ways to invest in gold for a long term. Plus, it's like, it's when you're investing in this, it's white, it's on your books, so you don't need to worry about it. So best way to invest, possibly you can look at investing in gold, is sovereign gold bonds. Every time RBI comes with these issues, Abhi recently they closed one. Benefit of sovereign gold bond is, one is it's issued by government, so you don't need to worry. Second, you can just buy it from your demat. Another important, over and above the appreciation of gold price, you also get 2.5% as a fixed return. And the gains that you have out of sovereign gold bonds is completely tax-free. There is no long-term capital gain. Whereas in ETF, gold fund, bars, you will also have your long-term capital gain. Another important thing is real estate. So real estate again is a very important part of the portfolio, but at the same time, it's important that we don't become land sharks, having heavy investments in real estate. It's not at all advisable. Other than your home, first and foremost, your first home is never considered as a real estate, because that is something where you're living and you're going to continue to live, or you'll possibly upgrade it, sell it and buy a bigger one, smaller one, etc. Other than that, important that you invest in real estate. Okay, ways to invest: you can look in for commercial property, looking for a residential property, looking for a warehouse industrial kind of a property. So different kind of real estates that you can invest in. But again, a certain portion of your overall wealth, not completely. You shouldn't be heavy on real estate, because as I said, every asset has a cycle. And at one point in time, we saw that boom in real estate, but it's not necessary that we're going to keep seeing that boom in country like India. Real estate, again, timing is very crucial when you consider investing. Favorable market condition for buying, investing real estate are any investor looks for. I mean, it's important that you make a right decision. The market conditions have to be favorable. Else, if you invest at a wrong timing, you can remain stuck with that investment for the longest time. What are the pros and cons? Pros is a rapid multiplier depending on what rate and when you're picking up the property. Understandable, it's a physical asset. So there is a look, feel, and touch. You have that property in your hand. The possession is in your hand, so you feel, oh, I own it. Whereas that feeling is not there with financial assets. Inflationary add-ons, lack of efficient market, acquisition through debt. So it can fall in both the places. Okay, but I personally feel that there are more cons to real estate as compared to pros, because it's highly recurring, highly illiquid. The recurring costs are very high: maintenance, property tax. Even if you're giving on rent, you have to whitewash the property, ensure that the property is well maintained. Transaction costs are very high: stamp duty, registration, GST. Inefficient market, again, it depends. It's not a very well regulated market. So it depends, buyer's market, seller's market. So it completely depends from individual to individual that you're dealing with. Obligatory in nature. So what I see, there are more cons as compared to pros when you're investing in real estate. But at the same time, it has to be a considerable portion of your portfolio. So consider that, and then you go ahead and invest in real estate. Irreplaceable wealth creation ingredient. We spoke about different kind of assets, different kind of asset classes. We spoke about your wealth terminator. We spoke about wealth genie. We spoke about your wealth daemon. Now we'll understand which is a fourth thing: irreplaceable wealth creation ingredient. And that ingredient is nothing but time. We all have studied this formula in our school and colleges. It's nothing but a compounding formula. A is equal to P, bracket open, 1 plus R upon 100 raised to T. What we focus as investors, rate of return, how much is it? What you should actually be focusing on is the T, because entire formula is raised to T. It's raised to power of T. So higher the T, better the return. So what investor ignores is always a T, and what investor focuses on is R. Whereas it should not be like that. It has to be vice versa. Time literally means money. We've heard time is money, but time literally means money. 10 years, 4 times, 20 years, if you have time, you can grow your wealth by 16 times. If you have 30 years, you can grow your wealth by 67 times. And if you have 40 years, you can grow your wealth by 267 times. In a 30-year investment period, the first 10 years contributes to 80% of your wealth. So first 10 years are very, very, very crucial because that gives you a power of compounding. Well, so I had little time. I had too much to cover. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much for a patient listening. I mean, in webinar, it's no patient listening. But yeah, thank you so much. And I wish you good luck in building your pipelines. One thing that I would close with, races are not won by accelerating on the top gear, but they are rather won by changing the gears at the right time. And before that, disclaimer, please make all your financial decisions as per your personal risk appetite and consult your financial advisor before making any kind of a decision. So thank you so much, people, for the patient listening. And yeah, I mean, you can visit our website, vamaplantrich.com, for more information, and we'll let you know what exactly we do. Well, that's it. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Neeraj to take it forward from there.
Yeah, thank you, Khyati. So we have panelists with us, Dr. Sachin Kale, Dr. Sanjay Dhar, and Dr. Prasad Chaudhary, who I am sure would like to ask you a few queries. So I'll start with Dr. Prasad Chaudhary.
I just wanted to know what is the, I mean, earliest you can make a will. When I was reading your protection quotient, what is the best time to make a will? I mean, how early should one make a will?
So actually, whenever you feel you have assets, you have something that your family can gain. I mean, God forbid, but if something goes wrong, the family can inherit something from the death. That's the time when you should make a will. So irrespective of amount, irrespective of age, there is no age to make a will and no time. If there is any asset which you think in your absence should go to your family, you should make a will.
What is the importance of nomination? I mean, why nominate when it doesn't have much? It gets superseded by something else.
So see, basically, again, if you see in a country like India, people don't really make. I mean, if you see the percentage of people making will, the myth is that will only should be made when when people have when I have a lot of money, I should make a will. That's a myth that we all live with. But that's not the fact. So nomination is given because if you even Google it, nominee is no one but a trustee. He just takes care of the fund. But if that is, I mean, in the court, if that thing is questioned, then he is just a trustee. He does not have right on that money. And as per Hindu succession law, the money gets divided. So all financial instruments, they have this thing, who will be the nominee, the trustee of the money. But later on, if the person has a will, it will be as per the will.
Thank you.
Okay. So Sachin, just unmute yourself. No, we cannot hear you. Can you remove your headphone? Remove your headphone and talk. Just unmute yourself. Let's see.
Can I ask a question till then?
Yes, sir. Sir, Sanjay Dhar sir will ask. Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Khyati. Thank you for a good lecture.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, see, at my age, means I'm more than 55 now. I have recently stopped my mutual fund SIPs. Not because I could not afford it, but I thought in this current scenario, the returns keep on going down. Although everybody tells me this is the time to invest in mutual funds because they're. But then considering the insecurity and what is going to happen in next 1 year, I thought it's rather better to invest in shares the same amount. Is that a mistake or?
Yeah,
in stocks? Rather invest the same amount in stocks. At least you have a.
Sure.
How do you see that?
What you can do is not stop your SIPs. It makes sense for you to continue because it is said that one needs to be greedy when others are fearful. We are living in times where everyone is fearful. So we have to be greedy and make the most of it. And vice versa. This is Warren Buffett's quote. So you should not be stopping your SIPs for sure. This is the best time. Market, when it's at all-time high, you can stop your SIP. It won't make a difference. But at these levels, if you don't invest, it will have a very big impact on your portfolio when market corrects. So one thing is you should not do that. Answering the second part of your question, it is better to invest in shares. Yeah, it is better to invest in shares if you are very well aware what you want to pick up and what you want to leave. Because in mutual funds, you have a good benefit of diversification. In stocks, whatever number of stocks you are picking, let's say you're picking 20 stocks, 5 don't perform and 15 perform, still the returns that the 15 made will be eaten away by the 5 that is not performing. In mutual funds, it's a large pool, so that wouldn't matter. I would suggest rather all these things you go for a pure index fund wherein you are buying a full index, either Nifty or Sensex or Nifty Next 50 if you are a little aggressive investor. Buy full Nifty because ऐसे markets में ऐसे volatile times में you will see markets numbers are moving very fast, the Nifty Sensex number, but certain stocks will not move at the same rate of Nifty and Sensex. So best thing to leverage the market and mutual funds both you can do is just buy the index funds at a regular interval. So every dip you buy or just do SIPs for next 1 year, and then you see you'll still end up making excellent returns on your portfolio.
No, I was normally I was leveraging it like right now. This is the time to buy some great stocks like Hindustan Lever, all those things which normally would be very expensive, but everything
Yes.
has dropped down. So
It makes sense.
in
That's
mutual
what
funds,
I'm
I
saying.
don't have any control. The mutual fund, this what is he called? That he controls the whole thing, investment
Fund
strategy.
manager.
But yeah, fund
Yeah, so
managers control.
say you buy some of it, some good quality stocks wherein you're sure that this is going to perform, like your HDFC Bank, HDFC Limited, Reliance, Asian Paints. These are all available at good prices. You buy
Yeah.
some of it and build a quality portfolio. But some of it you have to buy your index because index also by default will cover the 50 best stocks.
Yeah.
The movement of this 50 stock itself is going to decide on the index. So best is you leverage between both, and by default your mutual fund portfolio will also generate good returns if you add this to your equity portfolio.
Is there something to put your SIPs on hold or something? No, that doesn't make sense. It is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean you can put it, but put it on hold and start an index fund. Partially at least, and partially you go for good stocks.
Okay, thank you. Sachin can ask you.
Yeah, can you hear me, Neeraj, now?
Yes.
Yeah, very nice lecture. Any idea on how, is it advisable now to put on gold bees and nifty bees? Like,
Rather than gold bees and nifty bees, as I said earlier, you go for sovereign gold bonds. Nifty bees, yes, Nifty bees you invest. Nifty ETF, 100% it's a good investment. It's equivalent to index fund, a little better option, less expensive option than index fund also. So Nifty bees for sure you can go. Gold, better to invest through sovereign gold bonds rather than gold ETF. The reason is 2.5% extra annual return. And again, the returns from sovereign gold bonds, because it's issued by government, it's completely tax free. So the capital gains are not charged. Whereas in ETF, that will be charged.
okay, as now all the pharma stocks are little up, is it advisable to go for them, or shall we like go for other stocks like banking sectors or something like that?
Pharma, I believe it's going to have its next bull run. Every sector has its time. And I believe next 4 to 5 years is a time for pharma market. Because by default, if you see from a large perspective, consumer perspective also, people have become more concerned about their health, and the healthcare spends are really going to increase for next 2 years. So pharma has not performed for the longest time, and now for next 4 5 years, I am of an opinion that pharma industry will do very well.
So mostly our portfolio should have roughly a 20 or 30% of
Yes,
these sectors.
you should always have, like in your portfolio, 8 to 10% you should have a sector which is performing. Like before this, it was banking that did very well. Now it will be pharma. Few years later, it will be something else. Before that, it was infrastructure that did very well. So that's called more of a speculation, but that is something which will give you excellent returns.
And as maybe the same question like Dr. Sanjay Dharvicha asked, like better to continue the mutual funds SIP, right? Rather than
100%. These are not the times to stop your investments. I mean, if you're discontinuing that and rather starting something else, like maybe buying good stocks or just doing your indexes, that will also give leverage to your portfolio. But definitely not a time to stop. Definitely not time to even time the markets. That I'll enter when it's 8,000, I'll enter when it's 7,500. But you never know when that levels even come again.
So any predictions now, the market going up, down, can't say anything.
One can't time the market.
Okay.
So,
Neeraj, can I ask again?
yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Khyati, what about PPF? Means we have now, earlier we used to have only SBI doing PPF. Now almost all banks are allowing that online. So how good strategy that is to invest in a PPF?
PPF 100% a
That-
good strategy, guaranteed returns, tax-free return. It has to be a part of your debt now, especially because the interest rates of government has considerably come down, government bonds, and PPF is something which gives you absolutely tax-free returns. So, and of course, it's a limitation of 1.5 lakh. So both would definitely one should go in for it.
Is there any advantage of investing more in PPF? Like 1.5 lakhs is just for tax saving. So if you invest 2 lakhs, though that is not tax saving, but because it is giving good returns.
I really doubt if even banks allow more than 1.5.
Okay. So that is the maximum you can do, 1.5 lakhs.
Yes.
So besides this, I have a few queries. So there are these different types of now see our active income has come to a standstill, or at least for many of us who are even seeing this on Ortho TV, and especially those who are in elective surgeries, their active income is not going to come, has come to a standstill in the last 2 months and may remain in the lower bracket just for basically running the show in the next 1 or 2 months, maybe 3 months, 4 months.
Right.
So a person who has never invested in the stock market or never invested in the mutual funds, you are saying not to stop the SIP. But what about basically if the saving bank account does not have any money to put in the SIP? And you have to basically go and dig into your fixed deposits to go for filling up your SIP. So whether that is the right decision or not the right decision?
So again, one will need to prioritize. If you think, see, right now the first for 5-6 months, coming 5-6 months, first thing is sustainability. One has to sustain. Investments and all is a secondary thing. So if sustainability, if you feel that it's going to pinch that way, then it makes sense for anybody. It makes sense that, okay, you stop on your investments and first you think about sustainability. Second, another thing that you can do is possibly if you have good amount of money lying in FDs and your debt instruments, if your interest is on a cumulative basis, you change that to monthly basis, so that the income from your profession can take care of your expenses, and the interest income from your fixed deposits or any other instruments can take care of these investments, so that you're making the most of the markets being low also, and at the same time you're focusing on your sustenance also to possibly reduce it and keep it to an extent of your.
So there is also a group of doctors who run this WealthCon, and they recommend that you should do SIP in stocks instead of SIP in mutual funds, like especially the large cap stocks, especially for people like us who don't have time to time the market, become active investors. We are just passive investors, put money and forget it. So do you think that that is better than doing in mutual funds, especially for the long-term goals, like 5 years, 10 years goals, not for the short-term goals?
Because you are a passive investor and you don't have time to track the market. That is especially the reason why mutual funds work better for you. But at the same time, a strategy where you are identifying 10 good stocks, irrespective of market or price, you are doing your stock SIPs. And for mid cap and small cap, you are depending, mid cap, small cap and sectors, you are depending on mutual fund. That also forms a good healthy mix. That can also be done. But again, even if you're investing in a large cap, if you see the large cap basket, also it's 100 stocks. Now, you as an investor are not going to be able to invest in 100 stocks through stock scripts. So again, you'll have to pick and choose 10 or 15 that you will invest in. And as I said earlier, not all 10, 15 will perform. Some will, some won't. So you will always have to look at the average returns. But at the same time, chahe wo mutual fund ho ya equity ho, it needs time. I mean, even if you have an advisor, you don't have an advisor, you need to have, like every 3 months, you need to review your portfolio. It's like as doctors, you advise annual health checkup is necessary. We recommend that annual financial checkup is also very, very important. You need to see, is it keeping pace with your goals? I mean, whatever you have done in terms of investment, is it correct? आपने तभी जो invest किया था, there was some things about the company. Does that still hold true? So you need to check that. And if you don't have time, then opt for a complete passive strategy. Just go for index fund. So you don't need any monitoring. It will go the way index is going. It can be Indian index, it can be NASDAQ, any index.
So index funds are there in all banks.
All mutual funds offer that.
Yeah. Yeah, so all mutual, like HDFC index fund, Axis index fund, something like that. So all mutual index funds are there. So they
And
almost
it's
work
just
similarly.
copy paste of index, so you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to track it.
And there was a saying by one of the doctors. He was saying that buy on dips. So does it
Correct.
hold true that say the market is now down, or it is not down right now, not today, but when the market maybe goes down, do you put more money in mutual funds? Say supposing my SIP is going up to 50,000 every month and 5,000 in 10 different mutual funds. So when the market actually goes down, do I invest some extra lump sum 20,000 in different mutual fund? Is it advisable or not advisable?
100% you should do that. 5 years down the line, when you pull out your statement and see that day of investment, that will be one of the wealthiest day or the wisest decision that you made. You have to put money when the market is good.
Even in mutual funds, that is.
100%.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Prasad, do you have any more queries?
One
Yeah,
last
sir.
question.
Together, sir. Yes. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Just one question. Last 1 week, I have got so many calls from different banks wherever I hold account about this life term policies. You pay for 5 years, 1.25 lakhs, and then you get around 1.5 crores if you die or if you do next. How is that?
So that is basically a term plan till age 100. Okay. So it's
No, but they
nothing.
say you have to pay just for 5 years, and in case you die within next 15 years, you will get 2 crores.
Yeah. So it depends. So it's like, it's a term
It looks
plan.
very attractive to doctors, particularly.
Yeah.
Because we are
It's a
going to
term
die.
It's a term plan with a limited option. So you just pay premium for 5 years. That is correct. 5, 10, 15 years. There are various options in that. And then
Yeah.
if something goes wrong in next 10 or 15 years, because the tenure is short, that's the reason premium is short. The premium being term is short. So if something
Yeah.
goes wrong, your family gets the money. If nothing goes wrong, the money that you've paid goes for a toss.
Goes away.
Yes. Sir, I was also given that option when I took up the term plan just last year. I feel that that should not be the case, because I feel that I prefer to pay it till I'm living, basically. So what happens is that supposing my plan is covered till the age of 80, and they are telling that you finish off your premium in the next 10 years. But supposing if I die at the age of 70, I wasted the last 10 years of my payment.
Yeah, this is an insurance, no? You lose.
Yes. No. Say
But
basically,
so-
so there are
I
some
am
people who
saying this-
say, some people who think that you should finish off your premium. Khyati, what is your take for the
My
term plan?
take is, yeah. So my take is you should continue till the time you're working. Like for example, till 60 is your working age. You should finish your liabilities and your payments till the time you're working. Because all this is a liability. Probably after 61, if you're not really working, you don't want those additional burdens also of paying premiums. So till the time you're working, you should just finish off paying your premiums.
Okay, till the age of 60, you should finish off. That is what you're saying. But not in the next for 3-4 years for a 40-year-old person.
No, not required.
But you know, I'll give you a simple example. Dr. Sanjay Dar was working in Nair, and two of the professors of Nair, one is 90 years old and his student is 83 years old. Both are still alive. One of them is still working. He's retired because he cannot go in COVID. Otherwise, he was still working before the lockdown. So I feel that doctors actually start working after 60 really. My father is 73. Before the lockdown, he was working more than me. So I really don't know. And I think basically my father, those the doctors whom I'm talking about, they actually picked up their financial status only after the age of 60.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it is little funny, really.
But the doctors have a complete different life cycle. No,
Yes.
I mean they start late, so everything is late for them. The thing that here is you do it out of working out of choice is a different story, but it shouldn't be working out of compulsion or working to take care of the life.
Ashok is basically the one who started Ortho TV, and he's sitting silent. So anyone who calls Ashok, na, basically we want to work with Ortho TV. He says you call my financial head Neeraj Bijlani. He doesn't want to talk finances at all. That's why he's sitting silent. Do you have a question for Ortho TV?
That's why we have started this Financial Friday for me, actually. Personally, I'm learning.
Okay. So thank you, Khyati. Thank you very much for your time. I think we all have learned a lot. The most important thing which I learned when I was talking to you earlier is that till last year, I was a very big fan of that I should invest on my own. I should do everything myself. I should not hire agencies or finance companies like one of yours. But basically after this last year where it has been so uncertain, I still feel that I am not a person who is going to be very active. So if I put in mutual funds, I need to know after 6 months or 1 year if some company is doing bad in the mutual fund, I need to remove it at the right time. That I only realized after the DHFL went bad.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, DHFL went bad. That is where when I really realized that basically we need agents. Many of us can do it, but many of us cannot do it. So for people who cannot do it, should hire a financial advisor. It is like a consultant. So supposing you are an orthopedic surgeon and you are consulting, and you are taking medicines without consulting. So you
Yeah.
will also not like your patients to buy medicines without consulting. So you should be in regular touch. And as Khyati said, that you should be doing a financial checkup and do a financial OPD almost every few months or at least once a year with a financial consultant.
But all financial advisors are saying don't stop SIPs right now.
Yeah, that is what. But I think that is the right decision.
Is
That
it a
what she
biased
said.
decision or?
No, it's
Is
not
it a
that. Even if you read Warren Buffett, even if you read Philip Kotler, Robert Kiyosaki, you read any books that Benjamin Graham, the best of the investors in the world, anybody would say that.
Sir, the whole purpose of doing SIP is that basically so that we need not stop and we don't have to do any lump sum investment. That is
The
what
fun was intended.
Yes.
The fun was intended, so don't.
Yeah, of course, the agents, yeah, we as doctors will always feel that agents have their stake in it. That's why they are not saying. We really don't know. But I think finding a good financial advisor is like finding a good surgeon. So that is what we should be all be aiming for. And that is what I think is the take-home message, that don't do too much investments without the help of a financial advisor. Or if you're not giving your whole assets to financial advisor, at least take some consultings, regular consultations with a financial advisor to build your asset portfolio. So thank you, Khyati. And thank you
very much.
Dr. Sachin Kale, Dr. Sanjay Dar and Dr. Prasad Chaudhary. And
Thank you.
there is one
Thank you,
common
thank
thing
you,
where I would like to tell you that one common thing, Khyati, which you don't know, Prasad Chaudhary, Sachin Kale and Ashok Sham have all worked under Dr. Sanjay Dar as students, postgraduate students.
Okay.
But now they are teaching me finance.
And two of them still work in the same, three of them still work in the same institute. They are all professors. All three of them are professors now in D.Y. Patil Hospital in Navi Mumbai.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you.